So this morning, I want to share some more thoughts about impermanence. We talked a little bit about it on Wednesday, and the acceptance of impermanence, as we talk about it in all its manifestations, everywhere it shows up, is really one of the foundational and important aspects of our path. And so we return to it again and again because it's just that important. You know, it's really one of the fundamental truths of existence. It's hard to walk this path without embracing it, or at least setting an intention to embrace it. But it's not simply this metaphysical concept, this intellectual idea. It's an ever-present reality that we encounter in every moment of our lives. It is everywhere in our lives. And the more we dig into it, the more we see how it's everywhere in our lives. From birth until death, every aspect of human experience is marked by change. Birth to death, every aspect. The unceasing flow of arising, transforming, and passing away. Rising, transforming, and passing away. Whether it's our bodies, our relationships, our emotions, our circumstances, the list is endless. All of them provide us with profound opportunities to embrace impermanence and to cultivate wisdom and compassion as a result. When we open ourselves to the lessons of impermanence, we begin to see that in truth, that this truth, even though it's unsettling, especially when we first look at it, it's also a gateway to tremendous freedom if we really begin to internalize it. The moment of birth is our first counter with impermanence. From the instant we take our first breath, we are launched into this world that is dynamic, ever-changing, ever-shifting, and it doesn't end until we do. And this very process of becoming, of growing, of learning, developing, reminds us every moment of the day that nothing about our existence is fixed. I mean, that's a huge notion. You know, as infants, we rely on constant care and nurturing as we grow, but we continually adapt with either our caretakers or as we get older ourselves to new environments, new relationships, new challenges. But and this is the genius of the Buddhist teachings, when we reflect deeply on it, this process reveals the seeds of our suffering as well. Because we cling to our identities, we cling to our achievements, we cling to our milestones, we cling to things that we never want to go away in a futile attempt to create a sense of stability in what is really an unstable world. We try to hold on to youth, we try to hold on to success, particular roles, on, believing that these will bring lasting security and happiness. But the Dharma teaches us that clinging to what is impermanent inevitably always brings dissatisfaction. The earlier we could recognize this in our lives, which we typically don't, we could start to loosen our attachment to these fleeting notions, fleeting identities, and instead cultivate a deeper connection to the present moment. But usually in reality, it does not happen until later. Sometimes it never happens for many people. And as a result, we spend so much of our lives suffering because we fail to accept the reality of impermanence. We resist it, we fight it, we don't like it. And perhaps the big one, at least for many of us here these days, is aging. The most visible and undeniable manifestation of impermanence in our lives, which some of us here, as I said, are already acutely aware of. From the gradual graying of our hair, loss of our hair, weakening of the body, the passage of time leaves its mark on all of us. You know, in our youth, we resist these signs of change. We cling to this image of ourselves that no longer matches reality. You know, as a young adult, I lived as though there was no end to life. I mean, I sort of knew it in the abstract, but I sort of lived as though my life would go on forever, and I didn't worry about loss and impermanence or any of that. I just thought, oh, this is the way it's going to be forever. Which is one reason I think as young people, we live our lives so recklessly sometimes, because we don't think about impermanence. We certainly don't think about mortality. But as we age, we are invited, whether we want to be or not, to confront impermanence more intimately. It hits us in the face. And we can either resist it and rail at the universe for making it that way, or we can embrace it as a teacher. And the Buddha asks us, our path asks us to embrace it as a teacher. The very process of aging reminds us that life is not a static possession that we cling to. It is a fluid journey. Each stage of life presents us with opportunities to grow in wisdom, even as we have to let go of the past, of past phases, of past attributes that we wish we could hold on to. As we move beyond our ambitions of youth, we find greater contentment if we follow this trajectory, and simplicity and in gratitude and really meaningful relationships, because we recognize that our time is limited. So we prioritize our relationships. We engage in more acts of kindness. We pursue things that nourish the heart. And in this way, aging specifically can become a practice for aligning, not resisting, but aligning with the natural flow of life. We align with it, we suffer less. We resist it, we suffer more. It's just that simple, though very difficult to implement. Few experiences confront us with impermanence as starkly as illness and loss. They really hit us in the face. When the body becomes weak, when we're faced with the death of a loved one, when we're faced with a serious illness, the fragility of life is no longer deniable. And yes, these moments bring great pain, but they also hold the potential for profound transformation. Because illness teaches us, if we allow it, teaches us to let go of the illusions of control. When we are healthy, we take our bodies for granted. We assume, and this is certainly true when we're younger, that they will always serve us in the way that we wish. But when that illness arises, we face the reality that our physical form is subject to the conditions beyond our control. Illness is a wake-up call. In this vulnerability, again, we can resist, we can scream and yell and curse, or we can accept it. And in accepting it, learn humility, learn patience, and embrace the reality of impermanence. Similarly, loss, whether it's loss of a loved one, loss of a relationship, loss of a job, loss of a cherished dream and aspiration, again forces us to confront the impermanence of all things. In experiencing a loss, if we allow ourselves to grieve fully without resistance, what lies beneath that we tap into is a deeper capacity for compassion. Because both for ourselves and others that are suffering, we see the interdependence, the interconnection. We see how it comes to all of us, whether we want it to or not. You know, we regard death with fear and avoidance. But in the Buddhist tradition, and the Buddha taught this, it's seen as the ultimate teacher of impermanence, our own mortality. The inevitability of death reminds us that nothing, absolutely nothing in this life can be held on to. Not our possessions, not our physical bodies, not our sense of self, not our ego, none of it. And when we first encounter this truth, and this can be a tough phase of the path, it seems really daunting. But then as we delve into it, it really does contain the key to greater freedom. Because when we contemplate death, we begin to see how futile it is to cling to impermanent things. And we realize that all of our attempts to grasp at life, to hoard experiences, to cling to relationships, to cling to achievements, to rest on our laurels, only create more suffering, because they're always going away. And when we let go of this clinging, we come to rest in the present moment, and that's where true peace it resides. That's the promise the Buddha made to us. So death is not merely an end, it's, if we allow it to be, it's a doorway to freedom. And why, you might ask? Because it invites us to live fully, with an open heart, waste not a moment, while recognizing that every moment is precious precisely because it is fleeting. This full arc of human experience that we all go through, birth and becoming, aging and change, illness and loss, death and release, offers countless opportunities to awaken to this truth of impermanence. But we have to be willing to turn toward it, to face it. If we whistle through the graveyard, if we look away, we're not going to benefit from it, and it's going to keep biting us in a way that's a source of tremendous suffering. Each stage of life, with all of its joys and all of its sorrows, reminds us that nothing lasts forever. But this need not lead us to despair, because this realization can inspire profound wisdom and compassion. When we see that all beings are subject to impermanence, we begin to really understand, not intellectually, but at a gut level, the universality of suffering. I love this because this insight gives rise to compassion. We recognize that others like ourselves are struggling with the challenges of change, struggling with the challenges of loss. But here's the good news in impermanence. It also teaches us that suffering is not fixed. Suffering is not eternal. Suffering doesn't last forever. We learn to hold our experiences, whether joy or sorrow, more lightly because we know they're temporary. Just as difficult moments arise and pass away, so do our moments of joy and peace. This understanding allows us to hold our own experiences and the experiences of those around us with greater tenderness, with greater equanimity. Wisdom in Buddhism arises when we stop resisting the reality of impermanence, and instead we align ourselves with it. We align our behavior, our responses, our values, everything. We see it in the framework of impermanence, which is why I said at the outset, it is so foundational to this practice. Now, this doesn't mean we passively resign ourselves to the flow of life. Oh, why bother? It's all going away. Let me just, give up. No, it means we engage with it skillfully, because when we embrace impermanence, we let go. We set down unnecessary attachments. We live with greater presence. We live with more gratitude. We live with more kindness, because we see the deal. The deal is impermanence. We may as well maximize that. And we see that true happiness comes not from trying to control things, hold on to what is fleeting, but cultivating a heart that accepts impermanence, that is open and free. Often when I teach, especially to new folks, impermanence always hits people often as a harsh truth. I don't want to know it. I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me that. I've been there. I know that feeling. But in reality, it's a profound gift. It reminds us that life is pressure, not because it is permanent, which it isn't, but because it is fleeting. We transform when we embrace the totality of human experience. We transform our relationship with impermanence from one of fear and resistance to one of acceptance and even reverence. And in doing this, we discover that impermanence is not just something to endure, just to white knuckle through it, but it's a teacher, again, if we allow it, that guides us towards greater wisdom, greater compassion, and ultimately greater freedom. The freedom of just accepting that and not trying to control everything is immeasurable. Through this journey, we learn to live fully in each moment. We appreciate the beauty of life as it is, even as it flows, even as it changes, even in all its unpredictability. So those are some more thoughts this morning on the centrality, the foundational nature of impermanence, and understanding and reducing our suffering. And we talk about it a lot because it's that important. So let me leave it with that.